date, August 6th. It's our county council meeting, first of the month of August, and we started at 6 o'clock with some awards, and one individual we recognized, I've known him a long time, and he deserved every bit of it. That was Dr. Ronnie Booth. He done tremendous things at Tri-County Technical College, and I've been around the state, and no doubt people say Tri-County Technical College is the best technical college in the state. It's meeting people where they are, and it's making a difference. From that, we had a recognition of just the Americans with Disabilities Act, and that is so important to our community to know that all people have access. All people should be feel comfortable and respected when they're going into retail, recreation establishments, no matter what. We take that seriously. And then at the end, we recognize Farmer Market Week, and so get out there and buy your fresh fruits and vegetables. I love them. I don't eat as many as I should, so please support the local farmers by participating in that.
And I've seen you out at the Anderson County Farmers Market.
Yes, I've been there. My wife likes it. It's from folks that are in this area. So from that, we went into our regular county council meeting, and we followed the typical way we do things. Things go first, second, and third reading. And to start off, in third reading, we looked at certain roads that we've been talking about for a number of weeks now, that certain motor vehicle traffic just doesn't apply to that road. So in these cases, we want to tell the big trucks or the semis, it's not a good road for you to go down. We're gonna prohibit you from going down this road, but we will work with you to have an alternate route. That way you're not tearing up the road and getting into certain people's neighborhoods, but you're still able to do business. So we did that on, looks like 3 or 4 roads, and it made sense, and we've talked it out and received information from the council person of that district that was their intent. So from that, we went also into redoing the zoning advisory committees. And zoning is a wild process that it's not intuitive, but the staff makes a recommendation. Then we have a zoning advisory committee that's made up of people from that community, then the planning commission, then county council. So we're hoping that through this process, people are able to flesh out all of their concerns. We can know exactly what's going on before we make a big decision. Well, with that zoning advisory committee, we had people who weren't getting called upon very much. And so we wanted to reorganize how those meetings were done so that when people did come, they had substantive things to make decisions on, and that we in no way were wasting their time, because people were doing this in a volunteer nature, and because they were concerned about their community. So we reorganized that in a positive way so they can meet effectively but not have to meet too much. And then we went into how traffic and speeding is determined. I found this a little bit interesting. For speed bumps, periodically people say, Craig, I want a speed bump in my subdivision because I know this reckless teenager that comes through there going 80 miles per hour. Well, what Roads and Bridges does is they take a statistical sample of how many people are speeding and how egregious the speeding is. And they use that to determine where the speed bumps should go.
Also speed limits, I think they're talking about.
Yeah, and determine what the speed limit should be. And so you want to kick out the outliers, the people driving real slow and the people driving real fast, and say, what's the real problem on this road? So we tweaked that formula to allow them to get a more accurate sample to determine whether or not speed bumps could go on the road. And then, like always, still 75% of that little community have to agree on it, which can be tough. And then also they have to work out how to pay for them and the placement of them. So that was an adjustment that we made from a suggestion of staff and from hearing from folks in the community. Then we went into first reading, and we had a zoning issue in District 4 that we had a bunch of people come out. And it's where residential meets commercial. And whenever residential meets commercial, there's concerns, because we're trying to balance the rights of an individual versus the rights of the majority, and people want to maintain the integrity of their neighborhood. So many people spoke and against this, and the developer did not come tonight and talk about his true intentions, well, long term with the property, but had communicated beforehand that that they wanted to make a compromise and show the public something that they thought the community would like better. So council voted to move that forward on the condition that they saw hopefully some reconciliation between the developer and the community. It'll be taken up in second reading, where at that time it will either be voted up or be voted down, and the decision will be made then. But with conflicting opinions coming up from the zoning advisory boards, the planning commission, and the staff, people said, okay, we want to give them a chance to reconcile this and talk it out. Maybe it won't happen, but then the decision can be made pretty quickly at the next meeting.
It's also a good example of what happens when citizens show up.
Oh,
If
definitely.
no citizens had shown up, it might have just sailed right on through. And
Well, and I know I talked with many citizens leading up, like others did also, and every citizen gives a different perspective and a point of view. And if you don't live in that area, you can look at the topo and you can look at the maps and you can look at zoning books, but nothing substitutes somebody who lives and works in that neighborhood or that area to say, hey, this is how it'll affect me. And so getting that personal insight from the folks gave clarity that reconciliation needs to happen, or something needs to definitely change. So hopefully that'll resolve in the next couple of weeks, or it will be resolved by council making a decision. So from there, we tackled a little bit of an accounting issue that basically talked about capitalization of assets on our balance sheets. We go by a certain governmental standard. This was a recommendation by a national governmental body that does finance standards across the country for counties, and so we made that adjustment. One interesting thing that we took up next and was exciting is Arthrex has been a powerful presence in our community. They're investing a good bit, and many people are going to have the benefit of great jobs up there. Well, we went into an agreement, a partnership per se, with the town of Pendleton to work with the developer that's going to provide a certain amount of apartment housing that will allow for affordable housing in that area, because we're going to see an upswell of people coming in that area. Anytime you have great schools, great people, proximity to the interstate, and then you add on top of it an industry that is state of the art and pays people well and treats people well, you're going to see people come in that area. So we wanted to make sure that we're looking at housing in the same way that we look at infrastructure, and that we're being forward thinking in that.
I think they said 500 high-end luxury apartments is what they're talking
Yes,
about. Really not expensive apartments. I mean, really nice places for people to live.
Yeah, very nice places and a large number of them. And so anytime you operate with a company of that magnitude that's having that kind of impact, what excites us is not only being able to do that one thing, but it's these residual items that come from that people want to invest in the community. Developers see that potential. So from there, we did a couple of economic development things that are routine of nature. And when it comes to joint county industrial parks, it's basically an industrial park that exists on paper, but it makes it correct for the way we have to articulate and deal with things. Then we went into 2 resolutions, and I was excited about both of these resolutions. A year or so ago, we worked with Leadership Anderson to put a sign welcoming everybody from Anderson County from Greenville County. Most of you have probably seen it. I find it to be a beautiful sign. I think it looks nice. They did a good job on it. Leadership Anderson did the heavy lifting on that. We were able to help them, with some of the little parts of it in the end. Well, we had such an outpour of compliments. People said, well, why don't we have it on the Georgia side? Because people are coming up from Atlanta in droves, going to Charlotte and Greenville. And so we had already allocated money in the budget this past year to put an identical sign coming up I-85 on the Georgia side, welcoming people to Anderson, because I've been in many places around the southeast and up in the northeast, and I say I'm from Anderson, and people say, hey, is that where exit 19 is? And you say no, they don't realize how big a county this is. And so that puts a sign on both ends of the county that really recognizes us and allows us to take advantage of that traffic. Then we went into one thing that I had worked on in the past, and it is a slow-moving project. Anytime you deal with the state, it's a slow-moving project, but it's an exciting one. And everybody knows about the east-west connector and how we have the walkway from roughly Grady's to 81 where Ingalls is. What they may not know is a number of years ago, the state allocated money that was going to allow us to take the connector across 81 and circle all the way back and connect to Ann Med in the YMCA, and then on the other side at Grady's go across Main Street and wind all the way back and connect to the Civic Center. Well, the good part about that is you could run, walk, bike from the Civic Center all the way across town to YMCA, and the way sidewalks are done, you can get most of the way downtown with everything downtown has to offer, and then be able to catch a lot of sidewalk and walking paths through Lindley Park back up towards the Civic Center. So this could be a powerful thing for our community, because people tell me all the time, I love where I live, I want to be able to get out and run, walk, and be able to walk our community in a safe way. And the good news is this money came from the state. And people said, hey Craig, I don't live near it, so I might not use it, or I'm not a runner, walker, or biker, so I might not use it. I'd rather you take that money and do something else. Well, the state said if you don't use the money for your walkway, we're going to take it away, and we're going to send it to, I don't know, Myrtle Beach or Charleston. And I said, well, that's unacceptable. So we took the money, and because our taxpayers pay in and they deserve to have things here, and so we're going to be able to connect that around. It's probably going to be 18 to 24 months before we see it in reality, but we're lining up the process now, and our roads and bridges manager has been on top of it. From there, we moved into what we call road acceptance. So when certain roads meet certain requirements by developers, we take them into county inventory. And so we'll go weeks with not seeing any road acceptance. And then sometimes we'll see, like tonight, many road acceptances that they've gone out and inspected, they've made sure that they've met certain criteria from a development standpoint, and then we take them into county inventory as part of the agreement. From that, I chair the finance committee for the county, and I gave a report. We bought a number of police interceptor SUVs. These are sort of the Ford Explorer SUVs that you see Sheriff McBride's office use. And then we also talked about something that I thought was really positive, a brownfield loan. And for those who aren't familiar with it, because I wasn't, this is a loan that we can get from basically the federal government for insanely low interest, and they forgive 30% of it. So, but it's to allow us to clean up mill sites. Many of us have fond memories and nostalgia of the mills from a long time ago, but what we don't like is seeing the dilapidated ruins of them. And what this is going to allow us to do is go into the Lower Pelzer Mill and the Toxaway Mill site and clean it up and make it potentially to an area that somebody could develop, but at a minimum an area that's not an eyesore and that can be attractive to the community. From there, we agreed on buying some lawnmowers and equipment to use that at the new TTI building, and then we also transferred some capital to buy laptops for the police cars, and not your ordinary laptop, but it's configured for what they need to do for their job. From there, we went into executive session, and in executive session we handled a whole host of matters. And what we do in executive session is, I don't want people to see it as secretive in nature, but it's items where we're trying to work in good faith for the county. Maybe we're purchasing property, or maybe we're making contractual arrangements, and it's something that we need to approve, and we put the items that we're working on, but it's not details that we need to put out into the public until they're solidified. So we're going to be buying some property to help with some of the trails and some recreation work we're doing in the county. We also went into an agreement with voters and registrations, because we're going to be receiving new voter machines to the county, and the county works with the state on that. We also are going to be looking at software solutions to integrate across the county, because we have many services that work together and we need to make sure that's correct. And then we're going to look at some energy services where we have new buildings, we have old buildings, we have buildings that have been run the gamut, and sometimes we need to go and look and say, are we operating them efficiently, and can we do so better? And we need to sometimes have folks to help us with that, because in the county you can have, old boilers and generators and HVAC systems that, aren't of the same nature to your house, and you need to look at them from time to time and make sure that we're getting the right bang for the buck. From that, we all upped for the ones who are in attendance, updated who was on the library board. And I felt like most council members were very satisfied with who was on the library board. We have a strong library. I would encourage anybody to visit any of the branches. And I know myself, what I found interesting was you may not know how many web services the library offers. You can study foreign languages. You can do all sorts of things. I know my kids look at it, and I've gotten online. So if you're not wanting to come down for the traditional book, make sure you get signed up with the library and make sure these free services that you as an Anderson County resident are entitled to. From there, we ended like most meetings. We did some allocations to different projects in each individual district. And so these are just meaningful projects that come out of the fund from each council member. And it's usually because they're interacting with their district and they're talking to folks and they know what's important to the people in their district. And so that wrapped it up. It was a little bit of a long meeting. By the end of it, I felt like many of the council members were yawning. But we went into a lot of detail on a lot of different subjects, and as always, whether 2 people show up or 150 people show up, the most important thing we want you to realize is everybody gets to say their piece. And if something is of concern to you, or if something makes you happy, then we want you to be able to come out and express it, because the council does care, it does make a difference, and it does help us make better decisions. So all these items will carry on to the next meeting, and we'll look forward to the third Tuesday night at 6:30 in August, and we'll reconvene.